So this place used to be factories for making fishery can
Yes, for canning the fish.
for canning until 1978. Until
So
when?
we actually stopped canning salmon in the 1930s because of the Great Depression.
Great Depression.
And then afterwards, the cannery during the Second World War, we would, instead of canning salmon, we would can herring. So you would mix that in tomato sauce and then send it out to the troops overseas. And we stopped doing that once the war ended. And then later on, we used the cannery as a reduction plant. So we would take the herring and reduce it into fish oil and fish meal. So this is actually a new exhibit on sustainability. So at the end of the tour,
yeah.
you can actually come here and have a look at it.
Yes, yes.
It's more of self-guided. It's going to go up right over
Okay.
there.
Very interesting. This place is so-called Fisherman's Wharf.
Yeah, so it's actually an active fishing harbor.
A fisherman's harbor.
So as I mentioned earlier, the cannery was built in 1894, and we stopped canning salmon in 1930 because of the Great Depression. And this is actually a great place to build a cannery since you're located right off the Fraser River. And the Fraser River has some of the world's largest salmon runs. So if you look outside, you can see the Steveston Harbor, and that is the largest Canadian commercial harbor. Fishing harbor, we have over 600 boats in there at some point during the year. So as you can imagine, fishing was very important for the economy here in Steveston. During the off-season, sorry about that, during the off-season the population would be around 400. However, during the fishing season it would go up to 6,000.
6,000. So many people coming.
Yeah, a lot of people came because of the fish, because of the canneries. And the typical canning season was from May to October.
May to October. So just started now. It's a high season now.
So picking in July and August. And so at that time we had 15 canneries in Steveston and well over 200 in BC. And today we only have 4 canneries left in BC. So we have one in Vancouver, one in Richmond, one in Port Hardy, and the other one in Prince Rupert. And we do not have any operating canneries in Steveston.
No, Steveston. No.
And so this would be the receiving floor, and back in the early 1900s, you would need to use this stick to unload the fish off the boat onto the receiving floor. So if you have a look at the photo right over here, you can see that the men are using the stick to unload the fish off the boat onto the receiving floor. And we have a lovely photo right behind you over there. Once again, you can see how the man is using the stick to pick up the fish.
These are all salmon.
Yes, we would.
This salmon.
Yeah. So we used actually in this cannery we would can predominantly sockeye salmon, and we would pick the fish up by the gills because you did not want to damage the flesh. That would be the part of fish that you would be selling and earning your money from. And then in the 1930s, they started using a fish elevator like the one here in the photo. And if you look straight ahead, that gray inclined plane right over there, that's the fish elevator.
That's a fish elevator.
So that actually would be located outside to bring the fish inside the cannery. And so what you would also have to do is separate the fish based on the size and the type of salmon. So we had the different bins for the different sizes and the different types of salmon. So the next thing you would have to do was weigh the fish and pay the fisherman. So if we actually go down right over there, we can talk about that.
Fisherman, this factory man, talk about the price.
Yes. So back in 1952, sockeye was worth around 25 cents a pound.
25 cents per pound.
Yes.
1 pound means around 0.5 kilograms.
2.2 pounds.
1 pound equal to 2 pounds. 2 pounds equal.
2.2 or is it 22.2? I was a little confused.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I always get confused between.
Yeah.
And so coho 13 cents pound and pink 7.5. Now, do you know why sockeye would be more expensive?
No, I cannot imagine. Why?
Because it tastes better.
Taste is better.
And also because it's richer in oil, so that's why it would be more expensive. So if you want, you can actually come up over here and find out how much you would be worth if you were a sockeye salmon back in 1952. You can sit or you can stand on it, whichever you prefer.
Okay, yeah. Should I sit?
Okay, so let's see. For sockeye, $45. And for pink, only $13.
Pinkだってね。
So as you can see, there's a huge price difference between the two.
What's this? Sake, coho, and pink.
So
those are salmon, but
they're
different
all salmon,
kinds.
but you have different types of salmon, just like you have different breeds of dogs. So the sockeye was the most sought after because it was the most expensive.
Right.
So most people actually prefer to eat sockeye salmon.
How about wild salmon? I ate wild salmon yesterday. Wild salmon is a sockeye? No.
Do you know if it was sockeye salmon or?
No, I have no idea.
So yeah, next time you go, you might want to ask.
Ask them.
Which kind of salmon you're eating.
Okay.
Because there is a difference in taste between them. And then if you have a look right over here, these are some of the hand signals they would be using in the cannery. So for sockeye, you would go like this: sockeye.
Sockeye.
C for coho. Pink. Also have back. And then for steelhead, you would tap yourself on the head. Now they would need to use hand signals for two reasons. One, it was very loud in here. We had 3 canning lines and roughly 120 workers per canning line. So it was very loud in here. And number 2, we had many workers from different countries working in the canneries. So, we had many Japanese, Chinese, First Nations workers as well, and European workers as well. So you would need to use hand signals to communicate between the different groups.
So this is a communication sign among the people working.
So if you wanted to let the person down by the labeling machine know that now we've changed the labels from sockeye to pink, you couldn't always scream pink salmon. You would have to show them the signal. And so, have you ever cleaned a fish before?
Cleaned?
Yeah.
Cleaned means cut, no?
Yeah, remove the head, the tail.
Not much.
No?
No, but some experience I have one.
Some?
Yeah, some, but very some.
And how long would it take you?
Maybe one hour, less than 1 hour.
1 hour, okay.
Yeah.
Less than 1 hour. Okay, so we're going to go right over here and talk about the men who are responsible.
But they have to take off the
it's
very takes time.
Yes, it does. So here in the cannery, we had Chinese men who were responsible of removing the head, the tail, the guts, and the fins of the fish. So one Chinese butcher could process 4 to 5 fish in a minute. So basically, he would remove the head, the tail, the guts, and the fins. So 4 to 5 fish every single minute. And if you have a look right over here, you can see some of the knives that the Chinese men would be using. And we used to nickname them the singing knives since they would go so fast and it sounded as if the knives were singing.
Just they cut it.
Yeah. And so the Chinese men initially came to Canada to build the Trans-Canada Railway. And once that was completed in 1885, they found jobs working here at the canneries. However, here in Canada, we had something known as the Chinese head tax. So basically, anyone from China who wanted to work here in the country had to pay a fixed fee. And in 1886, the head tax was roughly $10 per person.
$10 a year?
Just to come in, yeah.
Every year he has to pay?
Just one
time.
Yeah,
just come
in. It's like an admission ticket, so just to come into the country, $10
$10.
per person.
But at that time, very expensive.
Exactly. And that was in 1886, it was $10. But then in 1904, it went up to $500. And back in 1904, as you mentioned earlier, that's quite a bit of money. That was your 1-year income. So that was a very good way to discourage any further Chinese immigration from taking place. And there was a time in the 1920s when the Canadian government banned Chinese immigration altogether. And so what happened is that this machine over here in the early 1900s replaced the Chinese men. And this machine is known as the iron butcher. So what would happen is that the fish would come right over here,
うん。
and the head would be removed.
そう。
The person working here
いや。
feed the fish into the machine, belly side up, and then right over here you can see
うん。
they would remove the fins.
おー。はいはい。
And if we follow the fish, you'll notice that right over here we have a saw-like structure. Basically, you want to cut the fish open just like that.
うん。
And then all the way here at the end, we have a brush
おー。
to remove the guts.
あ、ガッツね。いや。
And then you would have another blade to remove the tail. So this machine could process 60 to 80 fish
60 to 80 fish 1 minute.
in 1 minute.
おー。
So
very
one
fast.
fish every single second.
うんうん。
Now the Chinese men were fast, however this machine here was faster.
うん。
And if you have a look at the photo right behind me over here, what do you notice the man is wearing?
Wearing a kind of a rubber coat. Or,
Like a raincoat.
Raincoat.
actually. Yeah, because as you can see, the machine is open, so basically all the blood, all the guts would be coming straight out at you. And it was a very messy job. And so right over here on the floor, you had a nice pile of fish guts. So instead of using the fish guts and the fish heads as fertilizer, what they would do is they would take all the fish guts and dump them back into the water.
うん。
And a problem with doing that is that the people living nearby would be using that water, drinking that water.
ああ、polluted ね。Water is
Exactly.
polluted.
And a lot of people got sick because of that. However, they noticed that many of the Chinese workers did not get sick, and that's because they would boil their water for tea.
うん。Chinese habits ね。They drink tea with a boiled water.
Yes. So that's why it would kill some of the bacteria.
うん。
And so this machine was invented in the early 1900s, in 1905, and it was invented by a Canadian, E.A. Smith.
うん。Activated by motor.
This
Maybe.
is all actually powered by steam.
あ、steam ね。steam engine が connected to this ね。
So all these machines would be powered by steam.
うん。
And so what would happen is that your fish, goes around like that,
うんうん。
and then it comes out right over here at the bottom,
うん。
and then it continues on to our next station.
おー。
So why don't we go have a look?
うん。いやいや。
And so right over here we have the sliming table, and the women working at this station were known as slimers. And their job was to clean the fish and remove anything that the butcher may have missed, any blood vessels, any fish scales. Now, as you can imagine, this was a very difficult job.
うん。
It was very cold in this part of the cannery. That gate would be open for the entire day, so very cold in here. You would be standing with your hands underneath cold water for 12 to 14 hours a day. And that would be cold, dirty water pumped from below.
うん。うん。
And back then, we did not have daycare, so guess who came to work with us?
ああ。
So right over here, you can see that the baby is strapped onto the mother's back.
うん。
So we had a lot of Japanese and First Nations women who were working at this station. So often their husbands would be fishermen.
あ
So
あ。
they would be fishing out at sea, and the wives would be working here in the cannery at the sliming table, cleaning the fish. And so once the fish has been cleaned, what you would do is take the fish, place it right over here, down
Yeah.
here, and then the fish would fall down and then continue on to our next station.
What's this? What's the difference? This one damaged.
So what they would do is you would pick up a couple of fish, and maybe you would place it over here. And then because you have a lot of fish, you didn't want too many fish sitting up here. So you might pick up some and put them down here and just pick them up and continue.
うん。
So the clean fish were placed right over here, and they fall down, and then they go all the way up
お
to
ー。
our next station. So if you follow me right over here, please.
うんうん。
So right over here we have the gang knives, and these are the oldest and simplest machines on the canning line. So what you would need to do is take your fish, place it flat like this in the basket. The basket would rise up, and the knives would cut the fish into can-sized pieces.
ああ、カッティングね。
Yes.
カッティン
So
グ。
you can see right over here,
いやいやいや。
little slits,
いやいや。
bits
そう
of
です。
purpose
ごめん
cut.
ね。いやいや、カッ
Exactly.
ツ。うん。
And so we used to sell half-pound cans
うん。
as well as one-pound cans.
うん。
So you can see that the distance between each blade is of the same height as the half-pound
Oh,
can.
yeah.
Over here.
Mm.
So you can see that the piece of salmon would fit in here perfectly. However, what do you think you would have to do so that the salmon will fit into this can over here?
これ maybe twice なんだよな。このダブルサイズなんだよ。ポンポン。
There's something else you can do. Instead of putting 2 pieces of salmon, they would remove every other blade, and by doing so, it's of a perfect fit.
They remove that ね。
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, as you can imagine, this was a dangerous job.
Yeah, very dangerous ですよ。
They're really sharp.
うん。
These belts over here, sometimes they would fly off and hit you on the face.
Oh.
And on the other side, I'm not sure if you can see them, but we have some open chains.
Yes.
So if you got too close, you weren't careful.
Dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous, yeah.
And if you have a look at the photo, you'll notice that the men are wearing hats.
Yes,
just to make
yes.
sure that their hair wouldn't get caught in any of the open gears or chains.
Dangerous.
Yes. And the women, they would be using scarves to cover their heads. And so this kind of works like a Ferris wheel, and what happens next is that all the bits of salmon would be placed into this bin right over here, and then the pieces of salmon would be fed into the filling machine.
Oh.
So I'm not quite sure if you can see, but on the other side, right over there, we have a couple of pistons, some rods right over there.
でもさ、when make a cans, maybe you have to be kind of a boiled or kind of aなんていうかな、killing the disease, no? No need it. No, later ね. Okay, it's okay. So just
the pieces of salmon are fed right over there into the filling machine, and then the rods on the other side, they would be rotating, and they would basically punch a piece of salmon into an empty can. And as you can see, all the empty cans come from upstairs. Now, can you guess who would be working upstairs?
Maybe people working なんじゃないの? I mean the Indian people とか.
No, children.
Children. Little kids.
We had little kids working upstairs, and their job was to make sure that there was a constant flow of empty cans for the filling machine. So
How old are they? Maybe
8 to 12 years old.
8 to 12. Very small.
Very small, and they would be working upstairs for a couple of hours a day, dropping down the empty cans for the filling machine. And so once your cans have been filled with salmon, this is what they look like.
Yeah.
And then they continue on to our next station, right over here. So can you guess what this machine over here would be used for?
Packing. I mean, パチン。I mean, making a この cover. No?
Not quite. This is actually a weighing machine. So this machine would detect whether or not the can was underweight.
Waiting.
So right over here like this. So each platform is an individual weighing scale. So what would happen is that all the underweight cans
taken away.
Yeah, so what happens, they come right over here onto this track, further away from us, and as you can see, there's a dead end. So the underweight cans cannot continue down the canning line. However, if the can was overweight, or if it had exactly half a pound of salmon, it comes onto this track right over here. Just like that. And so this was the patching table, and the women working at this station would pick up the overweight cans, take a pair of scissors, and remove the extra bit of salmon. Take that piece of salmon, place it on the other side. So the lady working on that side would take that piece of salmon and place it in underweight can.
And then return.
Bring it back over here so that it could continue down the canning line.
Yes.
You can see right over here.
So those people working for that.
Yes. And so this wasn't an easy job since you had 120 cans a minute coming out of the weighing machine. So if you're working at this station, you're looking at 2 cans pass by every single second. So some of the women would faint on their first day of work. However, this was a well-paying job.
Well paid.
Yes. And they even had their own table in the lunchroom so that they didn't have to sit next to the slimers, the women who were responsible for cleaning the fish. So these women had their own table in the lunchroom. And if you're working at this station, you would also have to make sure that you wouldn't find something like this, a finger in your can of salmon. So that's why these women were very well paid.
Finger?
Yes.
Finger is a finger?
Yeah. So they were in charge of quality control. You wanted to make sure you wouldn't find a strand of hair or any dust or anything like that in your cans of salmon. because they were the last ones to see the cans before a lid would be placed on top of them. So that's why they were very well paid. They were in charge of quality control as well. And so we had a lot of older European women working at this station.
Not Chinese women, but
no,
European.
Yes. So really the color of your skin and your gender would determine where you would work along the canning line. And so now that your cans have the right amount of salmon, they can continue on to our next station. Do you have any questions so far, sir?
No, very interesting. So how much do they pay? These guys?
Maybe like $1 a day.
$1 a day, but those women, what? Maybe
a little bit less.
Little bit. I mean, the 1/3 or half. Not so much difference.
The kids will get paid 10 cents a day.
Kids are 10 cents, and usually $1, and maybe 50 cents or
maybe
60 cents a day.
So it really depends on the year as well. So that's why it's a little bit difficult to tell exactly how much they would earn.
How much for this kind is sold in retail price?
Well, in 1952, the salmon itself was 25 cents a pound.
25 cents for pounds, and this is half pound.
But then you have to factor in the cost of the can itself as well. So it's a little bit difficult to tell the exact cost. But as you can see,
retail price, maybe $1. How much do they pay? I mean, the people pay for buying.
It would have to be more than 25 cents a pound.
25 cents.
More than 25 cents a pound.
25 cents.
Because you have to also include the cost of the cans and the labor. So.
Yeah.
And so what happens now that the cans have the right amount of salmon? They come right over here. And right before you place a lid on top of each can, they would add something inside. Can you guess what that would be?
They add the oil, maybe.
No, the oil is actually naturally released from the fish itself. So they wouldn't add any oil, no water.
Kind of a chemical? No.
Yeah, you're a little bit close. They would add a little bit of salt.
Salt.
So right over here, this is a salt shaker.
Salt is added to the can.
So they add a little bit of salt to preserve the salmon and to add a little bit of flavor. And that's the only thing they would add to each can. And so now that the can has a little bit of salt added to it, it continues right over here. And this machine is the clincher. Clincher. And what it does is it takes a lid and slides it on very loosely on top of each can. And then afterwards, it stamps a code on top of the lid. So the code indicates the name of the cannery, the date, as well as what type of salmon you have in here. So you would have S for sockeye, C for coho, or P for pink. So at this point, you can see that the can has not been completely sealed. I can still twist the lid around, and there's a reason for that. What's inside that we haven't yet removed?
We haven't yet removed. What's inside?
Yes.
More oil, oil of salmon.
No.
Or
the air. We haven't yet cooked the can.
Air is still inside.
If I cook the can with the air trapped inside, the air would expand, and I would have mini salmon bombs going off in my cooker. So what you need to do is remove the air from each can. And so we have right over here a vacuum sealer to do that.
Vacuuming the air, ne?
Exactly.
Vacuuming.
So what this machine does is it removes the air from each can, and then you have 4 small rollers that come down and fold the lip over. So, right over here, you can see the difference between these two cans. At this point, it's nice and tight and good for 2 to 3 years. So initially, when we did not have the vacuum sealer, what you would need to do is take all your cans, seal them, place them in a giant steam box. You would allow the pressure to build up inside, and right before the cans would explode, you would take them out, poke a little hole, let all the air come out, and then you would use a lead to seal the hole shut.
By hand?
Yes, by hand. You would do it by hand. And the problem with using lead is that sometimes the lead would drip into the food, and a lot of people died from lead poisoning. So that was
lead. Yeah. Very.
A PB, the chemical.
Yeah, PB. Yeah.
So very, unfortunate that many people died from lead poisoning.
I mean, the people buy the salmon can
Yeah.
died
Yeah,
because of the poison of the
lead.
PB.
Yeah. So this machine really saved many lives since you're no longer using lead to seal the cans shut. So a little bit of history there. And if you look up right behind you, right over there, that's the can loft. So that's where all the little kids would be working, dropping down the empty cans for the filling machine. And then right over here, this is the lye bath. And lye is a very corrosive solution. And basically, it was used to remove anything from the outer surface of your cans.
But this is a stop, just emergency stop.
Some of the machines, we can start them. We can start some of the machines. So they're a little old, but some of them still work. And so, right over there behind you, we have a notice board with some rules. So number 1, no smoking. Number 2, you can't spit in the cans. And then number 6, any food product that falls on the floor must be discarded or properly reconditioned before putting back in. The cans would be loaded onto a tray. You would reel in a couple of trays inside the retort. And the retort is basically a giant pressure cooker, and it will cook your cans of salmon for 90 minutes. And then you take your cans out and let them cool down for 24 hours. So
raw salmon is cooked too by steam.
Yes, all powered by steam. That's what we would use back then, steam in the coal.
I mean, in the heated.
Yes.
Otherwise, they will break.
Exactly. So now, at this point, the air has been removed. So when you cook them, it's okay. You shouldn't explode or anything like that. But they would cook. They would cook the cans once they've been sealed. You don't cook the cans before. It's only after they've been sealed.
Like milk, milk is also boiled before they deliver.
Okay. So that's the retort. And then right over here, these are some labels taken from other canneries. So the labels on this side are taken from before the war, and the ones over here, before the war and after the war. So if you have a look at these labels, you'll notice that we have some very Canadian symbols. We have various pictures of the First Nations tribes over here. We have a picture of the Mountie right over here. Here we have a picture of the beaver.
Beaver,
the maple leaf. And right over here, the Trans-Canada Railway. So we really wanted to promote Canada since many of our cans of salmon were being sent to England. And the labels over here are taken during or after the war. So we have Ally Brand, Victory, Searchlight Salmon. So the idea was if you purchased these cans of salmon, you were supporting the war effort. You were supporting the Allies, the soldiers fighting for your country. And believe it or not, Walt Disney actually created a character, Simon the Salmon, so that the little kids would eat salmon. And then, I'm not quite sure if you can read what it says right over here in fine white print. It's a little bit blurry right now, but at the time it would not have been blurry.
Salt added.
Right before the salt, right below the salt added.
But what they say, I cannot read.
It says packed by white labor. So
packed.
Right after Pearl Harbor, they wanted to reassure everyone that don't worry, the Japanese didn't touch your cans of salmon, they didn't poison them. So they would actually stamp packed by white labor. And of course, at that time, we did not have anyone of Japanese descent working in a box like the ones we have over here. So initially they used wooden boxes, however later on they switched to cardboard because it was cheaper and lighter.
Cardboard.
And then you would take all your boxes and load them onto a truck like the one behind us, and then the truck would take all the cans to their next destination. So usually countries of the Commonwealth. So that's about it for the canning line tour. Do you have any questions?
Yeah.